Wanna be where you are, once you look away, boy. Be my superstar, your love is all it takes, boy. Wanna be where you are, once you look.
Hi there, it's Paul here from the House of the Outsiders, and thank you for dropping by. Today I'm working in my Dilutions art journal, my small one, and I'm trying a technique that I have to say I was more successful on when working on a piece of card on its own. When trying to do it in the book, I found that yes, like I didn't get the kind of the effect I wanted. Anyway, what I was doing is a technique I saw online on how to kind of create streaks with two colours. So I've got my red and my white, and I was kind of going for a streaky effect. As it happens, I like the effect that I come up with this. I mean, it has all the elements I like. It kind of, when you look at it, it still remains like a bold colour. You still see a red. It's not a mix of colours. We're talking about a kind of a monochromatic background, but with a little bit of interest in the fact that it has this kind of white kind of streaks to it. But as I say, it didn't come out so good. Well, not so good. It just didn't come out the same quality as it did when I did it on just a separate piece of card practicing. But anyway, I found it slightly difficult trying to work with a book where I had a fold in the middle. So I worked my way around it. I like the page and things are going on top of it anyway. So whilst that is drying and being put aside, I'd taken my journal, which has all my collages in, and decided I'd take one of the little weird critter things that I collaged together and do a drawing of it. You'll notice that I didn't stick to the collage design rigidly, like I don't. I mean, they're jumping off points. Same for yourselves. If you fancy this trick for creating little characters for yourself to put into your journals, then yeah, spend a month like I did creating. Well, you don't have to spend a day, make some collage characters, and then draw them. And skip step here. But what I did was, once I drew it, I scanned it into my computer and tidied it up just a tiny amount and printed it out, all ready to spread on with my watercolours, my palette from Culture Hustle, which I used last week to try as a background on my Dilutions journal. And since then I have heard and read about the fact that, yep, the Dilutions pages aren't the easiest to add watercolour to. However, on this, which is just ordinary copy paper, those colours went on marvellously. And you may all also notice that last week I'd said I'd been a bit of a bad boy in using watercolours without doing a swatch palette. Well, this time around, what you see above my swatch palette is I took the printed version that comes with the palette and jigged it about on the computer, scanned it and jigged it out on the computer so that I had blank squares, and then I took each watercolour paint and sort of like painted the colour onto that, so I got a true representation of what the colours will look like, and some of them look better and stronger than others. So now I know what to work with. Anyway, that's the guide I was working with, and I have to say that the colours, the watercolours, went onto my critter sort of like brilliantly. Believe me, a little went a long way. With the green, I took a small amount of paint and it just seemed to cover the whole thing. Brilliant. So I'm more and more impressed the more I use them. Glad for the investment. What I've done once the paints have dried is to take my Micron pens and add a few doodles and details, and because what I like doing, as you've probably seen a few times, is I draw my little characters with a lot of, not without a lot of detail, because I want to add those in a bit of a later time. So I do them quite basic so that I can doodle and add details to them and make each one slightly different if I choose. If I started adding all the details to the printout, then I'm more or less stuck to each time I use a figure for it to look the same. So yeah, so that's the reason for why the printouts are more basic, and I like then adding the details in afterwards. And now that I've glued in with some Pritt Stick my little figure, I created a bit of a shadows for it to stand on. It's not my best. I use paint pens, Posca, there's light and dark, but the representation's there, so I'm not going to beat myself up. You can tell it's a shadow, so so for the border, I've added a border, as you can tell, I'm in the middle of doing, and I went with the complementary colour of the reds and the greens. Hence why I coloured my critter in greens and yellows as well, because I knew the background was red and I wanted kind of complementary bright colours to stand out against it. The trouble is with reds and greens, or any complementary colour, is that when you stick them next to each other they can vibrate against each other, and yeah, it doesn't look good. And I was finding that when the border was just on its own, before I added the black, the green was on its own, that it was a little queasy looking. It didn't sit right on the page, hence why I put a black border around the inside, and then thought I'd start filling in the red parts of the squares in black. Yes, my intention was only to do it in green, it wasn't full planned, and when I kind of looked at the page, took a step back, looked at the page, and saw how the colours were fighting each other too much, the green wasn't standing out as well as I wanted it to, I started adding the black to then create the effect I wanted. And as you can see, I think it looks much better once I started adding the black border outline, and then when I started filling in these solid blocks of black, so black and green, it's beginning to, that green is now beginning to stand out against the red far better. It's doing what it, in my mind, should do. And just to sort of like keep it going and keep adding details, nothing too complicated. I just added some dots, some white dots in the black, because black and white are, again, two contrasts. I'd thought about whether to add red dots to the green, keep the contrast going, but I thought no, we'll go black-white with the dots, so I did a black in the green, if you follow what I'm saying. As I'm speaking, it's sounding complicated, but I know what was going on in my head at the time. With the critter on the right-hand side, I thought what I would try is to put the journaling fully on the left-hand side in a kind of a block. So I drew a kind of a small, or a kind of a rectangle around that page where I wanted the lettering to go, and then added in the letters. Again, a quote I came from another podcast or something else I was listening or reading to, looking down the list, and given that the critters seemed to be waving and standing as if sort of like at a party or something like that, I felt that the quote, I came for the adulation, was fitting. It's all serendipitous, there's no plans to what I do. I kind of rely on accidents rather than sort of like it all being premeditated. So yeah, I have a list of quotes, and I find the one that best suits the page at the time, and this was it. So I penciled the quote in, filled it in with black pen, and I now know that I shouldn't be speaking so much. We're coming to the end because I added a few yellow dots to the page just to add some more detail and fill the page out, make it look balanced. Anyway, these are some close-ups. Thank you very much for listening to all my rambling, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.